Komiket, the Filipino Comics Arts Market. Um, would you like to tell people about what's happening at Ayala 30th on June 10th to the 12th?
Oh,
Very,
we're having a
very apt timing, by the way, June 12th.
well, we're it just so happened that events are slowly coming back, and Ayala Malls 30th approached us if we wanted to put up a organize an event there. So we did. It's a Likhang Filipino theme, so it's a perfect theme for Komiket to be there. And we're starting small. It's 30 tables of creators, comics creators, and original art market artists.
Welcome back to the Comics Cube, everyone. Today I'm with Paolo Herras, and we are talking about Filipino comics and how it is progressing in the year 2022. Welcome to the show, Paolo.
Hello, well, thank you for welcome. I welcome myself. No. Well, thank you
You
for
are
having
welcome
me.
to welcome yourself.
I welcome myself to your show. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
Paolo, I ask one question to everyone who comes on the show for the first time, and it's a simple question. What is it that you love about comics?
Ah, well, what I do love about comics is that it's the independent spirit. You know, the what you're free to express exactly what is in your imagination down to the page. There are no middlemen. There are no limits like to production or artists or budgets. Uh, that's what I love about comics. And you get, if the creator is an artist writer, it's 100% what the creator's thinking, and you see it on the page. That is something that is totally unique, uh, and something that is magical, and about comics. Yeah.
Your career is not just comics. You're a film and TV director, TVC director. Uh, do you like comics more or just the same amount or what?
um, I love comics more for very different reasons. So I mean, I've been in different creative industries. Like I started in literature. I'm a creative writing major at the Philippine High School for the Arts. Got into the UP National Writers Workshop in third year high school. Then got into film through the Ricky Lee Script Writing Workshop. Uh, got into Star Cinema and ABS through the Star Cinema Script Writing Contest, uh, which I won by a stroke of luck in my first year of college. That's why I shifted into film. When I graduated, I worked in TV. Realized it was totally not for me, and went into the academe. Started to teach at Benilde. Saved up. When digital filmmaking came, made it more accessible to writers. The whole batch of a whole batch of writers, and a lot of my batchmates from the Ricky Lee Script Writing Workshop directed the script that they produced. And I went into a couple of international film festivals in Japan, uh, in the Tokyo International Film Festival, in India, and the US and Italy. Went back poor because indie filmmaking like really drains your life and your finances, and thought that I needed to, I wanted to be a better writer director, and I wanted to also have a career and the finances to keep doing what I'm doing. But I noticed that my stories weren't don't translate well on film.
Why is that?
And it was mostly on the magic realism, the supernatural, and that's when I got into advertising. I worked my way up, and I got promoted and moved to the team where Tepay Pascual was in, and she's a true blue comic era. I mean, she her thesis in UP Fine Arts, Mactan 1521.
Yeah.
We exchanged. She showed me her graphic novel. I showed her my films. We uh, worked together as a team in the ad agency, and really well. I mean, we did really good work for a brand that was, usually seen as a very uncreative brand. And we did so much creative work for that brand. Um, and That's how she introduced me to comics and invited me to a Comic Con. That was the summer of 2012, and I was shocked that there was this magical place where people were writing stories and telling their stories, and there were other people buying these stories. And it didn't matter if it was 20 pesos, 50 pesos, 100 pesos, 500 pesos. People were buying stories, and that's what, like, it was so hard to pitch concepts and stories to your advertising clients. It's so hard to get good reviews and good work out in international film festivals and in film. It's so hard to get your story out to be locally produced in local films and TV, because there is a certain aesthetic that they are looking for, that
To
or a
put it
voice that they're
mildly,
looking for.
to put it mildly.
It all boils to taste. So there's a different taste for different things, no. So in the comics community, in the comics, well, in the comic scene back then, it wasn't even being called a community. So there's this magical place that you could sell your stories and people are buying them, and that is actually the basic thematic premise of the screenplay that won in that contest, which is titled One Peso Per Minute, wherein there were these two beggars, a Lola and a little boy, that were wanted to go to back to their provincial home, took a bus, and were charging their stories. They couldn't pay for the bus ride, so they charged their stories at 1 peso per minute, and hoping that they could earn their way by telling their stories. And it kind of felt like that, but in a real scenario. So I don't think I answered your question
So
directly, but I went around it.
so that was 2012. In 2014, you established Meganon, the comics publishing house, and then
But the Meganon indie, it was an indie group of Tepay and Maika, and that was before I came in, even
oh,
before I
okay.
came in. So it was just that in 2014 we did put up Meganon Comics, but it was in Tepay's name, because he wanted to keep it simple, and we knew how hard it was going to be to get things done with the BIR and the DTI, because it's never easy dealing with them. So that's why we chose to be a single proprietorship. And we actually had a discussion on that, because Tepe and I both have different personalities. She's very safe, and and wants things to be safe and protected. And I'm in our dynamic, I'm more of the risk taker. So um she was saying that how parang part of the discussion was like, why professionalize, why not just stay where we are, because we're doing okay. And we were like talking about, how to, the basic dilemma was that we were talking to the same people selling the same number of copies to so we were thinking, was their life outside the Comic Con? And we did go around. We went to different university events. We've also went to Filipino themed events, art events, and we did. And there were three things that happened that led us to professionalize. And that was, the first thing was, we were able to get a booth at the Manila International Book Fair. But in order to get a booth, we had to have an official receipt and all of that. So that was one. People couldn't get booths at the MIBF before. You had to be an authorized publisher, etc., etc. Uh, the second was, fully booked was technically a 100% international. We're selling books, foreign books, and weren't selling local books. So in 2014, when when I inquired and shared with them the books that we were doing, um, that's when they said that, they want to try us out. So we were one of the first publishers who were consigned in fully booked. So that's the second reason for us to professionalize. And the third one was um, getting into to go ships. So the to go had like a
Yeah.
selling area, and that was the third. And then later on, when we did attend the Manila International Book Fair, we met somebody from Lazada that got us to be the one of the first publishers or first vendors that were selling comics in Lazada. And of course, that's half of the story, because when we actually got to it, it was very one of the most difficult and excruciating things to do is collecting the delivering the items, collecting the items. But that was beside the point. No, these were the four factors that convinced everyone to professionalize, and that was the beginning of Meganon's story in being a registered publisher.
What is it that sets Filipino comics or stories apart from the rest of the world?
Well, I don't know exactly what is out there in the rest of the world, no, but from what I do know is that, it's really the independent spirit of creators. And you see that in the three publishers that are still publishing uh, comics. So there's Komiket, there's Anino Comics, and Avenida. Um, it still it still celebrates that we all celebrate the independent spirit of the creators, and that is something that is unique in the Philippines. It's not only I mean, we do see it in other countries, but ours is like a lot bigger compared to um Korea, that has like a super IP trajectory that, will load it on webtoons, try to get as much likes, hits, or income from that. And then if it hits a certain figure, it'll get produced as a live action film or animation. And then that's where the big money is, and links it with tourism and all of these other products and branding and merchandise and stuff. No,
Transmedia.
so
Their yeah, their
yeah.
model is transmedia.
And then versus, let's say, but of course that one was a more advanced version of or morally advanced structured version than the one from Japan, which we all the invasion of manga in the US and Europe is huge. No, but they're the ones that really were the first to maximize that whole intellectual property into various forms, no, in adaptation and branding, etc. But um again, even the how manga artists are published, with an editor that functions like their manager, their co-writer, co-creator, by having so much leverage on producing the content. And that's also another thing. So you have these two trajectories, which a lot of the people from around the world are following: the Japan manga, webtoon, Korean webtoon, Kakao super IP trajectory. And I've seen that being copied in India, in Indonesia, and even Malaysia. What makes us different is our strong sense of community. Finding each other as each other's support system. We are each other's first readers, and that is something that is, I think, it's still unique to the Philippines. I think we're just a few steps ahead. It's not going to be just us. Our love for comics goes beyond territories and race and gender and preference, no. But um, we're I think we're just a couple of steps ahead, that we have safe spaces to showcase our work, and the behavior of supporting each other became more apparent over the years. And that's why it's a tight knit community. Mostly everybody knows each other, or knows somebody who knows one another. And that is something that's unique. We started calling it the community in 2017, where we launched an anthology that, like, guys, we're a community. We support each other. The success of the event is the success of everyone. So please, help each other out, help us out, and help us out so we can help you out. So that's how it started. Because usually these comics events were just like deadlines for creators to finish their work, or a means to earn additional income so that you could go out and have a party or beer, or meet with friends, right? So we called it out and we said, no, we're a community. And what we did was put up a we put up an anthology, with the called Community with a K, and we featured 20 to 24 creators every year, and so that we could reintroduce uh, comics creators to non-comics readers that would go attend the Komiket, and might be there to experience the Komiket, and possibly buy stickers or prints, but or even and comic books. But at least that's how we started, and that's how we grew from 3,000 to 6,000 to 9,000. Our last pre-pandemic event, uh what 9,000 people
Really?
supported, over 800 creators and artists and writers.
So that
Yeah,
is
it's amazing.
Komiket, the Filipino Comics Arts Market. Um, would you like to tell people about what's happening at Ayala 30th on June 10th to the 12th?
Oh,
Very,
we're having a
very apt timing, by the way, June 12th.
well, it just so happened that events are slowly coming back, and Ayala Malls 30th approached us if we wanted to put up organize an event there. So we did. It's a Likhang Filipino theme, so it's a perfect theme for Komiket to be there. And we're starting small. It's 30 tables of creators, comics creators, and original art market artists. And after that, we're going to Comic at Iloilo, in SM City, Iloilo, on July 15 to 17. Then we have a workshop, the 8th. We hold annual comic book creators workshop, so we're on our 8th year. I do it. I lead the workshop with Tapay and with Mark Navarro, and it's our 8th year. It's our 8th batch, and we've been doing it for 8 years. And then September is the Philippine International Comics Festival. It's still online. It's our third online festival. We're hoping to meet new creators, or more creators from other countries as well. and hopefully by next year we'll have a physical one. So all of our friends from the three online festivals would hopefully come here next year. We're still deciding if it's June or September, but September seems to be a lucky month for us. So yeah, that's our September, and then we go back to our roots and centrist elements in October and October 29 and 30. So that's our main event in October, and we have a Komiket in December, also in centrist, December 3 and 4.
That's
So
awesome.
we're gearing towards that, and yeah, we're excited
But
to go back.
Paolo, you mentioned that you started going to Comic Cons in 2012. I actually started going a year before you, 2011. And I remember back then some of the discourse around local comics was that a lot of people were making it, but a lot of people weren't taking it seriously as a business. It was more of a labor of love, and then as long as you get something out, etc. What made you call that out? Like, how did you have the gumption to call that out to the whole community?
Well, wait. Call what out?
Yeah,
Can we be specific?
to
Like,
call out that we should be looking at it from a more professional,
oh,
through a more professional lens. And
we didn't call it out because I am I don't believe in. I try my best not to point at we should do this and you should do that, and then just do it ourselves, and just if we fail we fail, but if we succeed we can be the example. I mean, a lot of the projects of Komiket and Meganon were like that. We were the first one to get into for Meganon. We were the first one to get into Fully Book, the first one to get into Manila International Book Fair. Uh, we we called the booth Comic Con because we loved Comic Con. We shared the booth with Comic Con to share the costs and to promote Comic Con to have more readers,
yeah,
especially to those who buy Filipino books but might not be comics readers yet and would be interested in reading comics. So we had that character and attitude that we if there's something we can improve on, we did it. So like if we could have a colored cover, we did it. If we could do offset printing and upgrade it when we had enough pages, we did it. We were always looking at trying to do better,
yeah,
trying to be better, and it wasn't comparing to other people or other creators. It's just about us. I mean, it's the advertising gene in us, but also the sustainability part is from the indie filmmaking. Like I don't want to bleed and go into debt for
yeah.
for the labor of love. I think because compared to film, films will can get you into debt. For comics, the labor of love might be the same time, same effort, um, or it
Much
might be
less cost.
comparable effort, but at much minimal cost.
Yeah,
I mean, how much do you need to spend to print 10 copies, 20 copies, 150 copies, right? It's not the amount of an indie film. So if you and you can earn it back.
yeah.
With indie films, you don't earn it back. You don't even get a percentage of your ticket sales. So when you get into festivals locally or internationally. So yeah, so being self-sustaining, I mean, I think that was something that um me and Tepay were always discussing na okay, if we especially when we price our books, when we attend events, we were always looking at covering for costs so we don't bleed and we don't start hating what we're doing.
Yeah.
Um, so that was us, and that's how whatever we earn per event, we won't split it and and keep the money. Whatever we earned, we saved it. So when we started out as zines, also I don't think I have copies anywhere of the zines, but um, we started out with zines. Whatever we earned in the events, we would save it. When we saved enough for a deposit, a down payment for printing the books, and we had enough pages to print uh, a legitimate book length. We did it, and then that's why we went into so many events like the Manila International Book Fair. We were in Fully Book. Later on, we were in some branches of National Bookstore, Phil Bars, Comic Odyssey. We're always there, so we would sell it, and hopefully in time to pay for the to pay back to earn back the balance for the printing. So that's why we were always conscious about how much we were earning, how much we were saving, and that we weren't bleeding. And when we got to earn it back and we got to start profiting, we still didn't split the profits. We saved it, and then we printed another book, and then we printed another book. So that kind of sounds familiar with cut to how many X years later that Komiket is now a publisher, and we have the Philippine International Comics Festival, which sounds like an independent film festival, and each book that gets published helps whatever is earned helps pay for the next book and the next book and the next book. That one is everything learned from advertising, Maganon, and indie filmmaking, and yeah, so it all like comes together at some point.
You're talking about the Philippine International Comics Festival, Peak Off. That's opened up a lot of doors for you because you recently came back from the UK to to promote that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. How was
Um
that? I saw you had lunch with Paul Gravette.
yeah. I met um actually Paul and I have been emailing like since around the Meganon time, but it was for different things. It was to bring his exhibit here in the Philippines, to bring Mangeisha. I think I have that book, to bring this in the Philippines. So there is an exhibit and Tress as part of it, and yeah. So he was part of last year's online festival, and when I was in the UK, we had dinner. We talked about our our journeys. He also put up a festival called Comica Festival, and it sounded like Comiket and sounded like Pickoff, and so he's also been helping us to connect with other publishers and festivals. So for this year, so yeah, um, I think that the going to international book fairs was suddenly uh it's one of the most exhausting things I ever did in everything that I've been doing for the past since Comiket started in 2015, because the task is to try to sell rights to international publishers, and or sell books in wholesale to wholesale buyers or distributors, and and I didn't imagine I would be doing that. It just so happens that when the pandemic clo- uh, closed down a lot of businesses and put people on pause, um, Comiket, from being your average event organizer, um, pivoted. We had time since there were no events. That's where we would get most of our funding. We're not the type of NGO that that people donate to, so we had to earn every centavo, every peso. So when that was taken away, it gave us time to reflect on what we really wanted to do. And at that time, we just opened up our bookstore, which is where I am. This is our bookstore, which is a little bit looks more like a warehouse by now because it the publishing overtook the bookstore. But
Where is
it
it located?
we're currently at the atrium of Makati, right near Manila Peninsula and by the Ayala Triangle. So yeah, so we put up the bookstore in November of 2019, and because one of the challenges was that faced by our creators is that there aren't very few spaces, very few bookstores that that sell comics. You won't find them in National Bookstore unless you're a registered publisher or fully booked. So we put this up so that we could also help the creators even during non-event days, that that they could still sell their work even when they're back to work or working on new stuff. So when the pandemic locked us all in, all we had was the bookstore. So we quickly shifted online, but that wasn't that wasn't enough. So we were also facing a lot of uncertainty and fear that we'll have to close our newly opened office, because we wanted the office to be sustainable. That's why we made it a bookstore. um, and that's where we were able to reflect on what do we really want to do now that before, we were chasing event after event after event, that we had like almost 5, 6, 7 events a year. Suddenly we had none. So our initial response was, to try to keep the community. People were in fear of the unknown, fear of COVID. So we're just trying to cheer them up. So we put free workshops online. But after that passed, like we can't just keep on doing free online workshops and or free online talks and just just be about talk.
Yeah.
Just be talk. So that's we were planning the Filipino International Comics Festival. So that one pushed through. We're already able to select the 10 creators, the 10 official selection. But that's where we focused on, and that's like me bringing back like my experience from advertising, from film and comics and workshops and literature, and that's what I really wanted to do. And when we published our first few books, including Tarantadong Kalbo, um it was like I was happy because it's like I was doing what I really wanted to do. um I haven't I haven't launched anything after my last book in 2016. So if I can just help others, then that maybe it's just time to help others, get their books out, get their stories out. So that was that that was innovation and growth for Komiket, that got into publishing. So we were one of the few publishers that aggressively started to publish during the pandemic.
What is the
And
bookstore called?
Secret HQ.
Right.
Um, it's called Secret HQ because we really move in silence. We move in secret. We only announce things when we're sure that it's going to push through. Because I noticed that people like to talk about their projects and then don't act on it because somebody or people would give their cast doubts or their comments, negative comments that would deter other people from doing their projects. So come we just like, okay, let's plan it out, figure it out, and then get it done. When we're sure, we announce it. So we did announce that we did announce the Philippine International Comics Festival. That way, it took everybody by surprise, and we're glad that there were creators that trusted us enough with their material, and that became the first batch. And then when we announced the event, we met other people like us from Japan, Australia, France, Singapore, the US, the UK, and we started to meet other people like us. So and then we featured them in our festival. We've been doing it for the past 2 years. The third year is this September, and it felt right. It felt like everything that I've learned from each chapter of my life is like now put together. And I didn't expect um expect for, I mean, comics was not that prioritized in the publishing industry. So last year when the National Book Development Board asked me if I wanted to attend the Frankfurt Book Fair and represent uh, the comics community there. So that was my job. So it was the first time that Filipino comics had its own shelf, and that's big because in previous years they wouldn't give comics a time of day. So it's not just NBDB or the publishing industry, but in general, it's usually not like the top of mind. I mean, if you look at NCCA, they won't consider comics as either literature or art or visual art. So when you apply for a grant, they'll just ping pong you to whoever, right? But that was the first getting selected in Frankfurt Book Fair. We received the most number of inquiries, and it affirmed that the Filipino creators are competitive worldwide in a global stage. And when I got invited to attend the London Book Fair, it became even more apparent because there were books that were already being picked up. Trece was already picked up. Myth Space was picked up. 12 and 14 and Melag was picked up already. So it was already proof that we are world class talents. So the London Book Fair was also another special event because half of the curation. So they asked me to curate half of it. So I gave a short list. They selected they did the final list, and then some publishers recommended other titles as well. So everybody contributed to it. But it was the first time that the Philippines had a booth in the London Book Fair, and the booth consists half of the curation was graphic literature, and a big chunk of the inquiries again were for graphic lit. So it is proof that one of the it's on record, no, but one of the, I mean, if we want to go global, comics the Philippine for if the Philippines wants to go global, comics is one of the best chances to go global.
It's true.
And Chess has already done that. Um, and uh, that's why everything that I've been doing is like meant to be. Um, it's not about bringing any representative to these book fairs. I don't just sell Komiket books or Komiket's published books. I sell the entire community. If somebody is looking for a certain genre or a certain type, I identify what they need, what they want, and recommend something that might not be in my publishing house, But if it's like in somebody else's publishing house, or if it's some other creator, then I would recommend that. And even that one, that behavior attitude isn't, not everybody will do that.
We're all in this
And
together. Yeah.
no, because when you go to these book fairs, you really just are there to sell what's in your catalog. So that again, the community spirit is still the most un, but it's a most unique selling trait for for Filipino comics. So, and I think that's what the publisher, international publishers, are already realizing, that they started with one, now they're choosing another and another and another.
Yeah.
And as long as we are producing good work, uh, will continue to be a source of uh, of publishable worthy titles for the world to read.
So, do you realize you've said that you were the first Filipino booth at the Frankfurt Book Festival and the British Book Festival? British.
The Frankfurt Book Fair, the Philippines has been attending since 2015, but it's the first time that comics was represented in that, in that stature. And then the first time to represent, the first time that the Philippines was part of the London Book Fair, and the one that I recently just came from was the Sharjah Book Fair. That's in Dubai, and again, I was representing Secret HQ as a the Filipino comic bookstore,
Yeah.
and the story of our community. So it's it's something that is very surreal, and I don't really know how it got into this, and how what it's the impact that it will have. But I'm just the lucky guy that gets to
Well,
do
you know
this
what
for
that
everyone.
means. You know what that means when we go global and then people write history books about how we went global. Your name will be very prominent.
Oh, I don't I don't think so. I think it's still, the it's really it's really the creators, because if and the work, because if we could attend these book fairs, but and we have been attending the Frankfurt Book Fair since 2015. But if the work isn't picked up, diba? I mean, it has to be
Yeah.
work that is desirable. And it just so happens that graphic literature, and it's the right time also, that there is this sudden desire for graphic literature, and not just for kids but also for adults, that that it's also aligned with the times. So
So yeah.
I think it's right timing.
I will say this. I will say this kind of to close it off. And I don't um and I hope no one gets offended when I say this, but and I hope I say this in the nicest way possible. But when I look at the average Filipino comic from 2022 and I compare that to the average Filipino comic from 2011, which is when I started going to Comic Con, I do have to say there is a very marked difference. The production quality is higher. I feel like there's a little bit more ambition in the story. Uh, I also feel like there's more effort put in, and I think a lot of that can be traced back to your efforts, like to put these guys together and adhere to a deadline and adhere to a certain level of quality. Have an editor, because I don't really think a lot of people had editors back in 2011. So I think that you have done a very large portion in elevating the industry and the product over the last decade. So props.
Oh, well, I that well, first, thank you for recognizing it. But actually, the truth is, the creators did the work. I mean, it, each creator has a very different personality. So part of my job is, I mean, there are creators that don't want to even allow me to touch their work, and there are creators that really are very open, and there's no judgment, because I do know that it's their baby, it's their work. I'm not here to get credit or to put my name on it or to change it so it's my story. it's n- so the first order of business for me is to get the trust of the creator to listen, because if first, if they need help, that's because some creators, like, they don't need any more help, they just need to get it done, they just need the pick-off platform to market it and for Komiket to publish it, and it's a done deal.
But
I
even
mean,
that, right? Even the platform is a huge deal. Like even that's the thing that I'm trying to point out.
yeah, but again, it's the creators who see it as a platform and as an opportunity to showcase the best version of their story and the best version of their work and the best version of themselves. So even if the opportunity is there, and you can get in the official section because you are talented, because you have a great concept, but if you don't deliver, if you just give because this is what you wanted to give, and it's not the best version of it, then that still falls into the hands of the creator. So the creators did their work. um I've seen like Bambi and Olan
Yeah,
Amago. They're wonderful couple. They
they're
were
so good.
so open to they're so good, they're so open to feedback. Again, they're now I remember then, now that when I was asked for the top five. So again, it could have been anyone, because like, but Bambi is a professional. They're both professional. They're both published already internationally. But they were still open to feedback, because it's not about ego. It's not about it's my work, or it's I know better, or I know what's best for my work. But they were open to listening, and they saw the value of it, they did it, and that's why they themselves appreciated that the work got better, because once the work gets printed, it's permanent. You cannot take back, even if it's 100 pieces, you cannot take it back.
Yep.
um when especially for something that's printed for 2,000 pieces, you can't take it back. When it gets purchased, you can't say, oh, they only gave us X amount of time to do the work. So, oh, I had other jobs, or I had
Yeah. The
I
audience
had
doesn't
other things
care.
to do. The audience doesn't care. When when the pandemic happened and we had that 1 year for the creators to finish their work, we extended it. We didn't like force them to submit, because we didn't force them to submit whatever was completed at the deadline, so that we just had something to print. Now that's a very bad idea, because it's a waste of money. It's misrepresenting the creators, and you want the finished work because it's permanent. So that's why we didn't have like a hard deadline for the first batch. That's why it was Doobie Doo and Little Wolf that got, again, si Kat is also a wonderful creator. We're
Yeah.
publishing her second book this year. It's called Way Way Out There. I've seen the sketches and I'm like blown away.
She's great
I'm the
too.
She's awesome. Again, she would be on the list again, but so the I had to earn everybody's trust, because most of them don't even know me, and who's this guy trying to say tell me what to do, right? So that's the first order of business, to earn their trust, to assure them that it's just about the work, and if it's not for the best for your work, then you still have the option of not to follow it, not to listen to it. And watching that, the only job is to encourage and to nurture. And because, again, if the creator is wounded, then you'll only see the creators' wounds, right? So you want to see their best and not their pain and not their suffering,
Yeah.
right? So that's why sometimes the my job is to check up on them, on like how are they doing, are they okay, uh if they are going through a creative roadblock, then that's what when we talk about it. If it's something technical, then we talk about it. So it's really assessing first what needs to be done. Some need creative support, some need emotional support, some need just you know um telling them about deadlines so that they have something to target.
Structure. Yeah.
So it's identifying that. And I'm not following anybody's rules. I'm lucky I get to create my own rules, our own, of course, that the board approves. No, but I mean, I never move alone. I have a board of directors to answer
Yeah.
to. But more or less, I could have followed the Japan pattern. I could have followed the webtoon pattern. But again, if it's not what my community needs, and if it's not what's best for the community, uh it's not gonna work. I mean,
Absolutely.
no matter what business proposal this could be presented to me, if the community doesn't want to do it, they won't do it. And word gets around quickly. I mean, uh that's something also about the community. If there is a bad rep about you, then it will get around and it will bite you back one way or another. So that's something that I also value a lot. I value the trust that's earned over time. Every event, every project, every book, every every opportunity, every challenge, it's trust built that over time. And it's so easy to break that trust. It's so easy to lose that trust. So that's why we tried our best to deliver and follow through and let the work speak for itself. That's why for me, um it's not really about me. I just get to do it. But if the creators don't come through, then it's not gonna get done. There will be nobody to showcase or nobody to feature or to celebrate. So it's really the creators.
Yep. And I can't wait for Komiket to be back live. I'll definitely show up. I'll definitely show up at Ayala 30th on June, one of those 3 days. Probably not June 10th because that's a work day. But, yep. So one of those three
Yeah, I do
days.
hope to see you. I'll give you something also from Komiket
Oh,
also.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Paolo. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you again for inviting me, and yes, thank you to myself for welcoming myself to your show.